Norfolk Southern has been cutting its workforce, while at the same time, Norfolk Southern is hiring conductors and a lot of conductors. So, what the hell's going on? My name is Mark Magana, and this is Railroad Economics, where we look at the business behind the trains. So, before we get into all of this, I need to give credit to one of you. A viewer named Loco Poco 70 left a comment on the locomotive four lights video saying that Norfolk Southern appeared to be doing some unusually heavy conductor hiring. Specifically, he mentioned more than 30 locations, two shifts at a training center, and classes with more than 100 students. That sounded excessive. That can't be right. I went looking. I could not independently verify those specific numbers, so I'm not going to present them as facts. But the broader point behind his comment, yeah, there's definitely something going on here. So, quick thank you to Loco Poco 70 for sending me down that rabbit hole. That was fun. So, there seems to be a big contradiction going on at Norfolk Southern. Norfolk Southern averaged about 20,200 employees in 2024. In 2025, that number dropped to about 19,400. And in the first quarter of 2026, Norfolk Southern said its qualified train and engine workforce was down about 6% year over year. So, why is a railroad that's reducing headcount still hiring conductors? That seems weird. The answer is that railroad labor is incredibly difficult to manage. Norfolk Southern CEO Mark George explained during the first quarter earnings call that the railroad has roughly 90 different crew bases, and crews have to be qualified for particular territories. It's not just a matter of, hey, you know how the locomotive works or X, Y, and Z. If you're going to go work in a certain portion of Pennsylvania, well, then you need to be qualified and know the track and all the nuances of that specific portion of Pennsylvania. So having extra employees in one part of the railroad doesn't necessarily solve a shortage somewhere else. You can't just send that guy to Indiana to run a train over there if you're in Pennsylvania. It doesn't work that way. But there's another problem. It takes roughly 6 months to hire someone, train them, and get them qualified. Norfolk Southern isn't hiring for the railroad it has today. It's hiring for the railroad it thinks it's going to have 6 months from now. Mark George actually described determining the proper level of hiring based on future market conditions as probably the company's single biggest internal debate. Hire too many people and you're paying employees you don't need. Hire too few and you don't have enough crews to move trains. And by the time this summer rolled around, that balancing act appeared to be getting even tighter. In June, the Atlanta Journal Constitution reported that the Brotherhood of Locomotive Engineers and Trainmen believed Norfolk Southern didn't have enough crews. Norfolk Southern disputed that characterization, but acknowledged it was increasing hiring in targeted areas. The railroad also said it brought on about 1,400 conductor trainees in 2025. That sounds like an enormous hiring, but here's the number that puts it into perspective. During Norfolk Southern's second quarter earnings call in July, Mark George said the railroad experiences roughly 8% annual attrition among its train and engine employees. So, hiring a lot of conductors doesn't necessarily mean you're growing your workforce. You may simply be replacing the people that you've been losing. And George's comments in July were particularly interesting. Earlier in the year, Norfolk Southern was talking about carefully balancing hiring against an uncertain freight market and using productivity to absorb attrition. By July, George said the railroad was generally positioned to handle additional volume. But there were pockets where Norfolk Southern was tight on train and engine employees. And he said the railroad had more hiring to do in those locations. All right. Now this starts to make a little more sense. Norfolk Southern can reduce its total headcount while simultaneously hiring hundreds of conductors. And it could still find itself short on crews in certain places. All those things are possible together, and that's kind of the situation we're in now. And there's a big yellow elephant in the room. Union Pacific. Is any of this hiring connected to the proposed UP-NS combination? Well, maybe. I haven't found evidence that lets me say yes. Even a union official who questioned Norfolk Southern's staffing levels told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution that they didn't know how much of the situation was related to the proposed merger. And for now, it remains a question, not an answer. What we can say is that Norfolk Southern has gotten leaner. Its workforce has declined. Its qualified T&E workforce was down roughly 6% year over year in the first quarter. And yet, the railroad still needs a steady stream of new conductors because employees leave, traffic changes, crews are geographically constrained, and somebody hired today may not be ready to solve a crew shortage for another 6 months. So, when you see Norfolk Southern cutting its headcount and hiring conductors at the same time, it's not necessarily a contradiction. It may just be the strange economics of running a railroad. Once again, thanks to Loco Poco 70 for pointing me in the direction of this story. It is an interesting one, and it seems like a big contradiction, but it is just kind of the normal course of doing business, strangely. And it's just part of the nuanced craziness of the railroad business. If you happen to see something going on in the railroad industry that doesn't make sense to you, please leave me a comment. I do read every single comment. We railroad economics to my and I'm very grateful and to my surprise and all that of course. The subscribers just grew so much faster than I expected. I cannot reply to every comment anymore. I do read every comment, and if that ever changes, I will tell you guys. But I really do read every comment. The thing with staying on top of comments, it's especially when you're posting Monday through Friday like I am, it's not just the comments you get for the current day. If that was it, I could do it. But that entire back catalog of almost 50 videos now is also pulling in comments every day, and it's a bit overwhelming. I sometimes it takes me more than, a couple days to finally read everything and get caught up, but I do in fact read everything. And on that note, I am going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate each and every single one of you. I truly do, and I'm very humbled by the growth railroad economics has experienced in a relatively short amount of time. Thank you so much.